many questions. If you're running as a candidate, or if you're even just a supporter, when you're running as a candidate, you're even usually asked questions that are not to do with even your manifesto. Things like, are you married? Do you have children? Why don't you can focus on your wife? Things like, where is your husband? If you're running for a member of parliament, woman member of parliament, where do you come from? And all that, why are you dressed like that? Why didn't you put lipstick? Or why did you put lipstick? So, or why did you even dress like that? So there are many questions, and we know media does set the agenda. So today we do hope that we're able to explore the different challenges that practically these people here would be able to highlight, but also you as the audience. We know you have had your own experience, just like I have had my own experience, and just like he or she has had their own experience. When women get into these spaces, sometimes someone is going to tell you, I cannot have a woman on the panel because they don't know what to speak about. And so you find that panels are always maybe just men, or if they bring you, sometimes they'll tell you it is just to include women. So we shall be able to discuss all that, but also the dispensation of media in terms of being in rural areas vis-a-vis being in urban areas. And also, if you are a brand, for example, if you are a brand as a woman, most times you'll be happy that, or you'll be lucky that some big media houses will look out for you. But if you're not, then you're going to struggle even to access some of those spaces. And let me start with you, Praise. I know Praise because she has done a very amazing work, which sometimes even me shakes me. I'm like, oh, this is the Praise. So the courage, the confidence, first of all, first clap for Praise, you people. It's not easy what she does, especially with the pressure and all that. It's not easy, I know, and we are proud of you for us who cannot do as what you can do, but you're also doing something. Let me get to you, Praise, and my first question would be, what is your perspective in terms of the whole situation of women's participation in politics, vis-a-vis the role that media has to play, especially in terms of production, in terms of what information is put out there, in terms of what freedom do they have, but also in terms of which woman gets to where, and vis-a-vis the information that they do have, and how it does play and influence women's participation.
Okay. Hi, women in tech. So, hi everyone, once again, I was here yesterday. For those who were here, I hope you missed me, because I missed you. I will not give answers with points, but I'll just speak and hope that you get answers inside there. So, politics is such a wide conversation. It's not just running for positions. It also involves the people, let's say the human rights defenders, people that interface on a daily with the politics of the country. So generally for me, women are not naturally expected to be in political spaces. They are not naturally, and when I say naturally, I don't mean biologically, I mean norms that society has set. As a woman, you're not naturally created by these norms to demand, to assert, and to hold accountable. Right from our religion, our religions that we subscribe to, or our different cultures, it mostly puts women in the place of submission, in the place of acceptance. I know most of you have heard of the saying of things like "Gumofumbe." A woman doesn't shout loudly, a woman doesn't question. So even when it translates to political spaces and spheres, most times women are included from the point of tokenism. You get? Okay, we are going to have a panel. Okay, yes, we are going to invite Peter, John, James. But wait a second. Now I'm gonna even send the list to the producer. Guys, there's no woman missing on this list. And they begin, but now which woman can we add here? Then they call you last minute. Praise, there's a show going to happen tomorrow morning. I don't know if you'll be willing to join. I'm like, so you find that for women, it's trying to balance the gender scale. It's trying to appeal to the political correctness that now exists. So you find that as women, one, we are not expected to naturally be in these political spaces. But then again, we are taken advantage of in these political spaces. I think my first time to interface with politics, like 101, I think was my time at the university. And I came to realize that a group of men would sit and say, okay, who is the most pretty girl in this girl? They say Praise because I'm pretty. So they're like, Praise has no clue. She doesn't even know this. She knows nothing. We are going to front you. You get? We are going to cover everything. For your job is to show up and show face. You get that kind of thing. But when Praise takes up a place of my microphone is off. When Praise takes up a place of office, what she's actually doing is rubber stamping or fronting the views of the men that are behind her. And this thing has even existed even at our national politics. If I mention names and I mention your auntie, uncle's name, I'm sorry. Look at our parliament, right? We have an affirmative position of women members of parliament, but we also have women who have been able to take up direct seats of MP in parliament. You would expect that because we have a good number of women, women's views will front the day. You get that? Women's issues will move the tables, shake the tables, but they don't. So it has brought to my realization another conversation outside just maybe what we're discussing here, that we need to start having more feminist women in political positions, not just women. And it's the same conversation we have with young people. It's not enough to have just young people in places of power. We need to have young people in places of power. That's why you can see the young people that hold positions of power may be even the strongest henchmen of the different issues or violations that young people suffer at the end of the day. So even when we have the conversation of women, we have to realize that in there, as we are being paraded in these different places of power or politics, that we are not just beautiful faces, you get? Even when like men are running their political campaigns, they want to have the pretty girls, what they call pretty, who are physically appealing to their voters or to their masses, the people that are going to vote them at the end of the day. Then the conversation of every day, the sexualization bit of it. You will be sexualized. You will be sexualized. Even the parts of you that you didn't know could be sexualized will be sexualized. Like you said, you can be on a panel coming to talk about something completely different, and someone will be commenting about the lipstick shade you have on. But when they ask, even when you look at like the questions they have drafted, the questions they ask the men are usually the serious questions. You get? The on-point questions, the questions that speak to the issues of that day. But when it comes to the woman's side, there is that need to, for lack of a better English word, parentify us women. They want to ask you, what's the church's perspective? What's the family's perspective? The fact that you see me as a woman, there's that assumption, I love to raise children, I love to be a family-oriented woman, I am so religious, I pray and stuff like that. But when they go to the men, they ask the real hard-on questions. So, really, generally, just as I conclude, the place of women in society has always been a place of, we fight, we claim spaces, yeah? Even in a modern world such as today, it's not enough. I was here yesterday and I was whispering to some ladies who were sitting there. Now they have shifted there somewhere, I won't point there. And I was asking questions, and you know, the men were eager to like put up their hands and answer, and the ladies were not. And not because they are less intelligent, not because they are less knowledgeable. But you see, one thing I've learned from men is that men have audacity. Even when a man is unknowledgeable, he will have audacity. He will speak, he will show up, and I feel like that is a thing we need to pick up, you know, as women. That even when we are informed, we are so quick to think, okay, is my hair right? Am I looking good? My skin, my this, my that. But because men have not been sexualized, because men have not been in the places that we have been put in, for them it comes naturally. They can easily, you know, show up. So there is a sexualization, there is a tokenization, but there is also the second-class citizen status that we have when it comes to politics in the country. Yeah.
Thank you so much. That was amazing. And I like the fact that you bring into context that not even just those that are in elections running, but also how women are always positioned and put out there. Maybe Linda will be able to explain that more, especially with the most recent National Female Member of Parliament election race that we've had, where we have a court ruling as of being given today. Let me first get to Samuel, and then I'll get to you, Linda. When praises contribution, but also, which I think is very lively to all of us, is the role that, and I quote, molarity, continues to push in terms of if you are a woman and you talk much, or if you are a woman and you say what you think is your mind, then perhaps the question will go to molarity. How was she raised? Something like, why is she that bold? Like your courage and confidence is in a way taken to be rebelling, like you're rebelling. And this we have seen on media spaces. We have seen, for example, this woman member of parliament for Masaka City, when there was a court ruling. You are on a platform, on a national platform, to be asked questions of national importance and development. And someone has to now bring in how you married a young man, how you are not respectful, because you speak your mind and you speak without any fear or favor. And I'm saying this because I know also religion is not so much different from a similar context, that religion, while most of the times will tell you, be good, be good, be good, sometimes being good is confused with someone's boldness and courage. In your perspective, especially from a religious context, but also from a preamble that I have given, where do we fit religion in terms of women's participation in politics, but also culture in a way, because religion somehow tends to imply more to the culture part. How do we draw the nexus between the struggle for religion, molarity in quotes, vis-a-vis what is true, not just what is true to a certain segment of, you were born in our church, you're raised in our church, you are shaming our church. And sometimes women are trying to protect themselves off the backlashes that media is actually putting. Should they just keep quiet and let it go in the name of respect of the so-called culture? Or what role, in your perspective, do you think religion is doing in that angle?
Yeah, thank you so much. The question is very long. Yeah, good afternoon. Yeah, thank you, Praise, for your submission. Back to the question Senior Counsel has raised to me. My name is Nzingo Samuel, and I'm going to be direct. I think to save time, as a pastor and as a religious leader, because I've been a pastor for the past 10 years, I think. And I got an opportunity to go and attend seminary for 4 years. So when you look at pastors or you look at religious leaders, we so much neglect the fact that we love people to participate in politics. So we don't encourage people in churches to want to participate in politics because we think politics is for people who are secular. But
church does politics. That is the reality.
Yeah, there is church politics, but in actual sense, most churches don't encourage people to go and participate in active politics and advocacy.
Let me first get you there. When you say that, there is different perspectives and different things speak different to different people. And sometimes maybe because people don't speak in church, for example, when you show up and you have a Thanksgiving, in your area, if the church is Catholic, you're going to find I've invited that aspirant who is Catholic running for member of parliament. But also on the other hand, when you're in church, not even just with the different religious affiliations, when you show up, you're going to find honorable member of parliament. You come and sit here in front. They will come late. After coming late, they will remove someone who came early from the front seat. Honorable sits. After honorable has sat, now church will even change from the church itself to a political church. This is what happens in reality and on ground. Even the fact that we see some of the church leaders saying, please support this one, he's our own. When you even see the Muslims and the Catholics and all that, they'll tell you in that area, if you're not a Muslim, you will not win, you're just wasting your time. And all that is an attribution of religion. Maybe you can proceed.
Thank you so much, but okay, that's right what you're saying. But if you've been very keen, even though churches are participating in politics, for example, but yet we have a very divergent view in a sense that when you look at the previous polls, like the key pastors in town were concentrating on a certain political party. And that's very realistic. But yet to go to our submission that we have today about how women and media versus politics, in that when you look at our society setting, women have been evaluated in different ways. And it makes them hard to participate in politics actively. I was reading a certain book by a man called Theodore Roosevelt. He was the 26th president of the United States and said that our lives begin to end when we begin to become silent about things which matter. But yet sometimes these women are becoming silent because the atmosphere is not conducive for them to participate in politics. Because when you remember previously what happened in the country in different aspects of life, Wando Opondo was on media, and he provoked Miriam Matende, and told her that your husband left you and went to these mere housemates. But Miriam Matende is a key person in this country. She's a role model that many people look up to. So when you look at the atmosphere that is happening, but yet to go to a spiritual perspective, I would love to drive something home, my sister. In that, even though you're saying that churches and religious things are participating in politics, I will speak from a Christian perspective. In that, when people are in churches, they are not encouraged to participate actively in politics, but yet they can be encouraged maybe to support someone, but someone who is a born again to rise up and say, I'm going for politics, it becomes a bit hard. And especially, there may be some men can rise up, but it is a bit hard for women in churches to rise up, and the percentage is very limited.
Somehow, if I can,
Maybe.
Can I supplement on something he's trying to say? Yeah, if you can allow me your time.
So, you see what Cheslin is saying? Like in church, there is active politics,
Especially when it comes to showing flocks through different indicators what to vote. It exists. But I also get what he's saying. For example, I'm a very spiritual person. I love, if you view my status, every day I can post like 10 worship songs, a quote from stuff like that. But you see what? Active participation is different. we are most times encouraged to vote. Like they'll bring this particular party person, everyone their own front. But when it comes to things like protest, holding leaders accountable, don't question your leaders. Leaders are chosen by God, but you sent us to vote last time. So why did God come down and choose leaders for himself? Yeah? When you preach about believing in getting a car, you tell me faith without works is dead. But you want me to pray corruption out of my country. You get that? So you realize that when it comes to actively holding leaders accountable, they make it look like a sin, like it's secular, like it's something you shouldn't do. And yet if, especially when they are older, you don't question older people. There is spiritual order. We are going to fast for a week for our country to be better. But in that church, there is a guy who tortures people, and you even invite him on your pulpit to greet and say a word to your masses. You get that? But when you're talking about things like my theft, homosexuality, my lying, you scream, your eyes are balling out. But you can call a corrupt leader to sit at the front of your church and stuff like that. So active participation, they make it look sinful. You get that? So I think
and maybe
that is it.
To add on what, thank you so much.
So 2 minutes and then
Okay.
Give me your time.
No problem. No problem. I was reading a certain lady, about a certain lady, she's a writer, and she's called Audre Lorde, and she said that when we speak, we are afraid our words will not be heard or welcomed. But when we are silent, we are still afraid. So it is better to speak. And you know, previously, me being a pastor, Honorable Moses is my friend, and a one-on-one. So he makes a call and tells me, Pastor, I want some agents to come and help me on that day of voting, to keep the ballot, they're called what, which forms? The diary forms. But you know, when I shared with some key persons in church about that concept, the pastor said there's some 30 youths to participate in this activity. And you know, we were very hesitant. So we may actively be telling the church members, please go and vote. But as a church, as churches, or as religious persons, we are not actively telling people to get into the activities and participate actively and advocate for rights of different stakeholders in the country. Yeah. And you know, lastly, that when you look around, people become comfortable when they are supporting maybe a political party that will not affect them negatively or will affect their gains, let me call them gains, in the different churches where they fellowship from. Yeah.
Interesting. Thank you for that. Let me get you Linda. Linda is a secretary for female affairs in the National Youth Council and for Abim district. Abim district, I think, is the orange. If you follow districts in alphabetical order, it will come first. AB. Most of us might not even know where the district is located or have not been there. That is in Karamoja. Karamoja for overtime is one of those areas people think has been struggling, not as much as some of the other areas. But also to emerge through as a woman in politics, right from Abim district, and experience that you have had, particularly running in party elections, but also running in the National Youth Council elections. In terms of media distribution within Abim or Karamoja, or even the Greater Uganda, what is your comment on that?
Okay, thank you so much, Tracy. One thing that I want us all to understand is like media, that is a channel of where information or messages go to a wider audience. So when we talk about media, there are very many examples of media. There is print media, there is digital media, there is social media. Print media can be like newspapers, magazines. Then we have the broadcast media that can be TV, maybe UBC, maybe NTV. And then digital media, we see like websites, emails and stuff. Then social media, we have TikTok, we have Instagram, we have Facebook. So when we come to correlation between media and women, now when we are talking about women, think about your sister, think about your mother, think about your wife, think about all your grandmother and everything. So when we come to media and women, we are trying to correlate the media and women all together. So media is supposed to be our means of representation to influence the societal norms that they have against women. Then we also use media as a way of empowering our voices, so advocating for our rights and also other things. Then also, although women have a lot of challenges when it comes to media, so when it comes to my rural area, also when it comes to my personal experience, when it comes to politics. So I personally didn't know that I would join politics because I was among those people who say, politics is not my business, I don't do politics. But I realized that whether you like it or not, politics is everywhere where you are. So I have been in the feminist spaces, and then I just thought about it and I was like, okay, how do I make people of Karamoja, how do I improve the lives of the young women around me? Then I realized that in order to do that, I have to be at the decision-making table. You have to be in the table where decisions are being made. So I told myself, okay, I am going to join politics. But my joining politics has been a roller coaster of experiences, very bad experiences, very negative experiences. So joining politics as a woman, being the first woman chairperson of my district, was very, very bad. When it comes to the media coverage, of course in my village, in Karamoja as a whole, we do not have TV stations. We have maybe like 2 radio stations in the entire Karamoja. We have one in Abil, and then we have one in Moroto. So this media, the radio station covers all the entire Karamoja. But then when it comes to representation of politicians at the radio station, they rarely acknowledge women to come and talk on the radio stations, or they never give women a chance to speak on the radio stations. Most of the time, it's always the men on the radio stations. So as a woman, we find it very, very hard to be called, or even if you call them, they keep on taking you in corners and they be like, no, maybe tomorrow, come back another day. By the time you know it, they're just sidelining you from these radio stations. And that is the medium of communication in the entire Karamoja, like a rural area, where these people in the rural areas, they don't have smartphones, or very few own smartphones. So when you're trying to reach out to the young people or to the people to vote you, the access is really, really limited. So when it comes to sexual manipulation, there's a lot of sexual harassment. I don't know if it's just Karamoja or the entire country.
It's everywhere.
For Karamoja is worse. For us, we are below. It is actually very embarrassing, where you find that majority of us are not, we are not aware. There's a lot of, I think, mindset change that needs to go up there. Education is also very low, where you find they see as a woman, why are you standing for a political position, especially the term chairperson, as in chairman. Why? What is your business as a woman in the chairmanship position? Why are you there? In fact, they even call a family meeting for you, or some sort of culture or something, and be like, oh my God, you're so disrespectful. This position is for a man. Why are you there as a woman? Women are not supposed to lead. They even call the church to come and pray for you, which is very mentally disturbing. But just like our sister Praise said, you have to have a lot of audacity. Women have to be very, very audacious. I think that is the thing that I took with me. I became very audacious. Regardless of the sexual harassment, I just put that behind me. Whether men are touching you, whether they're catcalling you, you just pretend like you've not heard. But initially, it also affects you mentally. But at the end of the day, you have to realize that you're looking at the bigger picture, you're looking at the bigger goal to become what you want to become in the district. That is in terms of media, that is in terms of harassment also. And then when it comes to, there's one thing that I wanted to talk about also at the media. I think a few months ago, we had a scenario, not just in Karamoja as well, where, in terms of sexual harassment, where they were also looking for they plot, like they plan, like they put a man against you, or they set up a man to come and bribe you so that they can have something against you. Yeah, so I've also faced that a lot, of which someone like me, I am very resistant. I'm very, you don't just come and start saying love things to me with no intention. So I think I beat that. But then if you look at also other districts, we had a scenario where there was a girl, I think from the West. She was running for the position of member of parliament, where I think her nudes were linked. Yeah, that girl. So whether it was AI, whether it was her video, I don't think people had consent to put that out there, because obviously the motive of that thing being put out there is to limit her way of representation, which I think it is always done to the women. Very few of that happen to the men. Women rarely have intentions like that. So, and also when you think about it, the media, which I believe the media should be the one protecting us, try to stop the circulation. They are the ones putting that in you find it on radio stations, they're discussing about it. You find it on social media, the men are reposting and reposting and reposting. So there's just an endless circle which in the end really affects someone mentally. The girl may even pull out. Sometimes a lot of people even have a lot of suicidal thoughts, but if you're not very, very strong, you always end up doing a lot of things that obviously harm you as a young girl. So,
just 30 seconds, and then I get to start.
okay. And then in terms of representation, so last week we had National Female went for voting in Hong Kong. So if you realize in this thing of National Female, you find that the gentlemen, the boys, have a lot of interest in the position of National Female than the actual females. So you'll find where we are 443 people, both chairpersons and the finance, and then the females are 143 Secretary of Female Affairs. So I believe as a Female Affairs, this is a affirmative action position. Our voices as females should be heard the most. I personally believe that I think women should have taken the forefront, or maybe women should be the one voting for that position. But then when you see the men are more than the women, so basically we are representing the men more than the representation of the women. That is what I think. I don't know how other people feel, but that is how I believe it should maybe have been done. Then when you also look at the political thing, you find where it is the men spearheading this thing. It's like the National Female for you, they just say, you know what, you just be the face. For us, we shall do the everything. So when it comes to media, they will always now call the girls, you come and just with your placards, you just come and be the face. But when you realize the actual people who are in this thing, you find it's the men doing it. So at the end of the day, we feel used. We feel like the position of National Female is not really a National Female. Our voices are not going to be, we don't even know whether we're going to be represented in actual sense, or it's just a position where it's just for the sake of the sake. Thank you so much.
Interesting. Thank you so much for that. You mentioned something to do with women's pictures being put out there. And in Uganda, I think it is worse, especially when you go to TikTok. TikTok has become very toxic. That to some people is news, that to some people it is likes, that to some people it is followers, that to some people it is content, that to some people is much more than you think. And you will see everyone posting on TikTok, and everyone has an opinion of the woman's body, how she is, how all that is really running, and eventually it does escalate or even scares more women, because when you read comment sections, people will tell you, that is why me, I can never join politics, and they think they are safe, which is not the case. So there is much more as Linda highlights, and also even when you look at this ongoing case where the ruling is today for the National Female Member of Parliament, still again on TikTok, you're going to see everyone with their own opinion. Likely, or if I have seen people who have been saying, this race has only beautiful women, so there has not been much of, to society standards, what they think is beautiful. There has not been much of them saying, that one is ugly, she won't win. Because to society standards or to the men's standards, they feel these women are beautiful. So they can run for that race. But if there was another whom they feel this is not beautiful to their expectations, then perhaps should have faced the same. Let me get to you, Stuart. And I know that the contribution of media, especially if something is on TikTok in Kenya, you in Uganda will get to know about it. If something is on TikTok in Nigeria or Twitter in Nigeria, you will equally be able to capture that. And also from your perspective, working with one of the Kenyan media, how do you think media is promoting women in terms of giving them spaces for deliberation? Are they actually even giving spaces? And or are they just put for representation, like Praise had earlier stated, to ensure that we are actually something to look like it is, but when it actually isn't?
Thank you very much. A good afternoon to you all once again. I think more so I identify as a feminist because of over the years I have always been on front for women's rights and gender issues. So the discussion is interesting. As we discuss the discourse, as she gave us the preamble, is that we need to know that this is a progressive fight, seeing that we create a just society where both male and female can thrive and have the equal opportunities and access for expression. So the case of Kenya, partly I would say they have moved a journey when it comes to the creating platforms and giving opportunities to women to express themselves in the political affairs of the country. And we have seen that starting from because the environment matters for the effectiveness of the action. So we have seen that the Media Council of Kenya, at least it has policies in place to start with that are enablers for women to actually access the media platforms and have a non-discriminative environment where they can actually use the platform and get less judgment in non-judgmental, because they have a policy about gender sensitive reporting and media representation, which is a plus that as a producer, for example, or as a columnist in any paper, before you write about this woman, the nudity and all that, you have to put in mind the gender sensitivity of that information that you're going to share. And that is one of the important strengths that we need to hold in Kenya. But also the other realities of the game, as we are saying, the odds. The truth is that the odds between male and female are still, the male are high. The media coverage, both the print, the social media, our digital media, plus even the broadcast media. But we are seeing the trends where there are initiatives, a quite number of initiatives that have been developed to enable women get encouraged and get access to this platform. For example, different broadcast stations have specific tailored programs for women leaders and women in politics to talk and discuss about women issues and gender issues, but also share their stories and empower themselves and others out there to take up the space. That is one of the things we can talk of. KPC, can talk of MTV series, and of course we have seen quite a number of activists in Kenya, like Gathonya and Reef that have taken up the space, that use other social media platforms, start podcasts, and those series that they do, I think they are plus, because if you go to one of them and you see the following and the engagement, they are really meaningful. So we need to see much of those initiatives. We have seen the Feminet, we have seen the UN has the project where they are training journalists, empowering them, they give them the empowerment and capacity building for them to take up the space, the media space. For example, the group has journalists that are aware of the gender sensitive reporting and anchoring, taking up the production work. So at the end of the day, if you have those people take space, they are well capacitated, that means that they can make a meaningful change from within. They can provide the spaces, as we've been talking about, that we should even question that those that get spaces, do they use them meaningfully to bring other women or discuss women issues on table, or they don't use them effectively. So if we can get women capacity enhanced, that if they take up those spaces, like they are producers of the show, they can be able to guide and bring that meaningful engagements that can encourage more women participation in and usage of media. That's their voices.
Maybe a quick one, just in 1 minute. Uganda's civil space dimension under the Global Youth Participation Index is at 32%, whereas the one of Kenya is at 57%. Uganda is 32%, Kenya is 57%. Could that mean that, yes, we do have more people talking about women's rights, but also we do have more media or more platforms given to women, unlike the case in Uganda? Or could it be that maybe Kenya's space coordination is totally different from Uganda's, in your perspective?
In my perspective, I would say that it's quite more evident that the Kenyan government have provided more enabling environment, but also there have been strides to awaken and give these and empower women to take up these spaces, which we are not seeing here. That, for example, in Uganda, we still have more suppression, we still have more I think we need more empowerment here in Uganda, because we have seen, like how we've seen more women in Kenya beating up odds, regardless of the suppression and all that, in activism. So how we wish we cope and see more women here in Uganda taking up, fighting for that space and taking it, using it effectively. But we have seen cases of Ugandan men, for example, suffocating fellow women. So instead of supporting them, so if we can have that area improved, maybe it can be better. That is Uganda.
Interesting, thank you so much for that. And maybe also in addition to what you're saying, I do hear you, especially in terms of, again, the Global Youth Participation Index. Uganda's socio-economic dimension is just at 69%, while that of Kenya is at 82%. 82% of being part of the socio-economic dimension within Kenya means there is more of a likelihood that there is actually a bit of financial empowerment, a bit of economic empowerment, because all these have a role that they play when women do show up in politics, and the role that media has to influence on them. If you do have the money, most likely, they'll even be looking for you. If you do not have, most likely you will never get it even to a Twitter conversation or to a flyer. So maybe the different dimensions also do have a contribution that they make. But let me get to you, Honorable Diana. And talking about women's participation in politics and the role that media has to play, I do understand that much as women are facing very many challenges, within women, some of them are even facing greater challenges. For example, if you are a person living with disability, or maybe if you are visually impaired, or if you cannot hear, then the challenges even get more worse, because someone is, maybe they feel like they cannot invite you on the show, perhaps you are not able to see, or maybe you have some challenges as an individual. And like I say, the situation is worse in that perspective. And maybe as a person who ran an election, but also maybe, or a person who has been in leadership representing persons with disabilities, what has your experience been like? And also, what need for reform do you think should be put in terms of media within an alignment with women with disabilities running in the elections?
Good afternoon. Hope we're having a nice noon. In media, as we are talking about women in media spaces, women as women, their challenges. Already women, you are a woman and you have those challenges as a woman. And on top of that, you are a woman with a disability. There are most challenges that women with disabilities face is accessibility. It is in that in most media they don't value accessibility. You find a media person trying to interview you, you are a person with a hearing impairment, and when the media is trying to interview you, when you don't have an interpreter, the challenge is there, because you can't go in an interview with a media person without an interpreter. And in most cases, the interpreters you have to facilitate them. They have to be paid to interpret for you. So it's a challenge that you are a politician, you are a woman with a hearing impairment, you want to go to the community, you want to go to any interview, you have to be with money to hire your interpreter, which is a challenge. And I'm seeing that women with disabilities are left out. Because if it is in a system that in any media, there is that position for accessibility. For a person with a hearing impairment, a person with a visual impairment to be guided. Even people with physical disabilities, there are the disabilities that you can't move without a helper, and which is expensive. You can be going to any interview or any media place, you are a person with a wheelchair, you need someone to push you, which is a double expense. We see like in terms of transport, if the media houses are far from you, you have to look for transport for yourself, and again, the person that your helper, the person to help you push on you. So people with disabilities are very much challenged in that if either the government or there are policies that can help people with disabilities, like if I'm to join politics, I'm a woman with disability, then there are those services that if I'm to speak the media at your door points, they come, they interview from where you are with a person with a physical disability. And for people with hearing impairment and visual impairment, if they can be helped out, at least if they are to be interviewed or they are to join in any media, they are to an interpreter, at least the media is there to facilitate an interpreter. All the medias should put in place people that can interpret for people with visual impairment and hearing impairment. It would be better. And another thing, women with disabilities, you're a woman, you're seen as, you feel here, you're seen, then you have a disability. You may find that people with disability, women with disability are taken as some media people take them as special needs, as special case. They see as you as an inspiration to others. They see you the leadership abilities that are in you. They just see that this one is just to inspire other people with disabilities. Not saying there are ability in you, but they see you as an inspiration. They don't see that capability in you that you can be a leader. Though you are a person with disability, but you can be a leader. Maybe it's just to inspire others. It's there to they see you as an inspiration. And there is this myth, they say that there is a myth that people with disabilities are not allowed to participate in mainstream politics. Like, if I'm a woman with disability, then you should stay in the Electoral College of Disability, the disability lane of leadership, not engaging in the mainstream politics. Because they may say that if you are a woman with disability, then how can a woman, moreover you are a woman, then you are with a disability, lead people? Is it in the community, or in the community there are women that don't have a disability, or women that can participate in politics than being led with a woman with a disability? So the stereotypes, the stigmatization that women with disabilities are being stigmatized, they are discriminated, it hinders women with disability. And fear, because of the attitude of the community, attitude of the media. Like me, a woman with disability, was how would these people view me? How these people see me? You have that fear in yourself. So I may think that people with disability should have that self-esteem, that a person with disability is also empowered to understand your rights, to understand that you are also a woman, you have your right as a person with disability. Because some people with disabilities, mostly women, a woman can be with that fear, and you say like, you feel yourself like, as in we are in this congregation, you are like, you feel that fear. I'm going to stand up, people are going to look at me, are going to look at my disability. Because as a person with disability, people first see your disability than seeing you. They first value your disability than seeing you as a person, what ability that is in you. Your disability is the one that first comes in their mind, in their facial. So that hinders women with disability.
Maybe a quick one. do you think, and this is from a point that I have not seen media spaces and maybe media houses have a representation of persons with disabilities, maybe like hosts, maybe like news anchors, maybe like all that. Do you think that that in a way also is a limitation, and in terms of inspiration, as you say, because in my perspective, I would feel if we also had those representations within those media platforms, could it be a plus, especially in terms of inclusion of persons with disabilities? Because I feel like some people don't get it, but the situation is real, and the challenges are more even than what we see on an individual basis from what you have actually highlighted. Do you think that the less or no inclusion of persons with disabilities, you cannot tell me that this Uganda doesn't have persons with disabilities who have done journalism, mass communication, and all that, but we hardly get to see them in terms of reflection within those media houses?
Yeah, true. Because even we have a slogan that nothing for us without us. Because if I'm to engage a person with disability, at least it's better to engage a person with disability with a fellow person with disability. Because people with disabilities, you have that experience in yourself. At least if you can work the media in the media houses, there are also people with disabilities that are engaged in. It would be better for people with disabilities to influence for that inspiration. But when I go in any media in any media space and there are no any person with disability, that means we are left out and we are not engaged too. We are not thought of as persons with disability. And yes, there are people that are confined, that people have with disability and they have started journalism, but the challenge is the media houses, they look at your disability. They take as people with disabilities that something they produce they have that myth that anything you produce also has a disability. They think we can not perform as people without disability. That I think when you go for an employment opportunities, they first see your disability. They will ask, can this one manage because of their disability? There is one time when it was an International Day of Persons with Disability, and one of our fellow participated in INTV. They invited him to read news, but it was a surprise to everyone, seeing someone with a visual impairment reading news. So people may think, or the media may think that when they employ someone with a visual impairment can't read, yet people with visual impairment, they are knowledge, they have that accessibility of braille. If braille is there, the person can read the news very well, even better than people without disability or that visual impairment. But just because of the thinking of people or the myth that people with disabilities can't perform well, it's the challenge we are getting.
Interesting. Thank you so much for that great analysis, and also maybe the organizers help you putting this into context in terms of some of the advocacy areas and what needs to be done from civil societies. This is a safe space, and so we appreciate everyone's concern. As I get to my sister, she requested that I use Luganda because she's more comfortable with Luganda. So we have anyone who doesn't understand Luganda, so that we also have to interpret for you in English. You don't understand Luganda, okay? So when she speaks, Boyogera, Muluganda, Ogenda Kubanga Ompaya Kade, Boli Mutegera Muluzungu, Boli Kategera Luganda. So I was telling her that in case when she speaks, I'll be able to translate for you in English so that you're able to translate for him. Is that okay? Okay. Kati sister, oliomu ku honorable we bawadde owa represented Uganda rangisu. My Uganda is not Uganda, but ngenda gezaako oliomu ku abakulembeze baabo you can reply in Uganda then we change that. So my question to you is, would love you to tell us your experience as a newly elected representative of persons with disability in Wakiso, how it was, because I know some of the things, much as we might talk about the lived experience, is where the story lies, is where the issues are, and what solutions we could have. So if you could share with us your story and experience, how it was, especially in terms of, were you able to make it to any media space, or did you in any way use any media platform or online spaces, maybe Twitter and all that? She says thank you very much.
Oli asobola okugamba ki ekyansikiriza okujja mbere nga neesimbawo.
Someone might ask why or what forced her or what made her to come and contest.
Ekyansikiriza lulinga nga lugero oba giyite story.
What inspired her is what you can call a story.
Natwala omuntu aliko obulemu mu ddwaliro erya Wakiso Health Center.
She took someone with a disability to a health center in Wakiso.
Nentuukayo nga embeera si nnungi, nga talina ngeri gy'atambulamu era ne ku butanda nga tebukka.
So she found that this person had no way of walking, and even the beds had no accessibility.
Mukyo ne mpulira obuvumu mu nze nga ngamba singa mbeera kansala ow'abantu abaliko obulemu, waakiri nsobola okwogera ku nsonga eno, tufuneyo akatanda ne bwe kaba kamu oba bubiri nga bukka, omuntu aliko obulemu asobole okubeera nga asobola okukalinya.
In that, she felt inspired to actually run for councillor representing persons with disabilities, so that at least she can advocate to ensure that there are those beds where those that are not able to walk could actually be given or assisted in a way.
Ekyamazima n'entambula era n'embeera omukulembeze nga mpulira nkyagala era n'ennyingira mu mbeera eyo ey'okuvuganya.
The truth is that she decided to run, and then luckily she was able to get into that position to represent them.
Okuvuganya tekubeera kwangu lwa nsonga abaliko obulemu obajja mu mayumba, ekyo kyakusoomoozebwa kinene.
She says that representation is not easy because in the first place, the people with disabilities, you have to go and pick some of them from their homes.
Mwekyo nasobola obakuŋŋaanya era ne bannonda mu kiseera kino nze mukulembeze waabwe.
So in that way, she decided to go to those houses and pick those people, which now she is their representative.
Navuganyiza mu party eya NRM.
She ran under the NRM party.
Lwa nsonga buli kye neetaaga kiri awo mu NRM bwe nkiraba kuba ye gavumenti ebadde ekulembera.
Because for her, all she sees it in NRM, and that is the party that is ruling.
Neeteeseteese okubeera nga mbasakira.
She prepares herself to make sure that she lobbies for them.
Era mutyo nga nja kukozesa ebitongole byemmanyi ne byengenda okuyiga nga ne kino ekimpisa ekya Hope for Life.
She says that she hopes to reach out to organizations, especially including Hope for Life that has invited her here.
Programu zonna ez'abaliko obulemu nja zibagamba omuli Onyoga ne PDM ewamu ne special grant era mpulira nga bajja kusituka.
She's saying that all the programs, she'll make sure that she informs them about the programs, and including yoga, PDM, and all those under the special grant.
Badde mwogera ku nsonga y'abannamawulire wamu n'ebyobufuzi. Bannamawulire ku sayidi eno ey'abaliko obulemu tetubalabye nnyo.
She's saying that we were talking about the inclusion of media in women in politics, but also for them under the persons with disabilities, they have not seen them so much.
Amawulire gaffe temugakuŋŋaanya lwa nsonga mutuyisaamu amaaso.
She says that the information from persons with disabilities is usually not captured because they undermine or overlook them.
Tutambula mu process yonna ne tutambula paka we tukimalako nga tulabye n'amawulire nga ne ku TV ffe tebatulaze.
She's saying that for them they walk distances, have their information, but they never appear on any media or even get captured to show that this is what they are doing.
Mukyo nsaba tutambulire wamu bannamawulire ne bannabyabufuzi ffenna nga tuli wamu ng'abakyala abaliko obulemu ng'amawulire mugakuŋŋaanya na buli kimu nga mukiraga.
So she says that in that she insists that media should be part of the agenda for inclusion of women in politics to drive towards development. And thank you so much, that's what she says. Thank you so much, my sister. We are very grateful for that addition. A story, we were feeling with you whatever you are telling us. That is why I decided that you could share with us your story and what you have been through, but also for making a recommendation that media should be part of the agenda, especially in pushing the issues and ideas of persons living with disabilities, especially women within the political spaces. And we also hope that as an ambassador you're already doing amazing, because you have shared a story which is of impact, but also which is of an advocacy point in terms of inclusion, to make sure that your voices, all voices of the people that you lead are heard. I'm going to do just a last round question round, and please less than 2 minutes if you can keep it that. And I'm going to start with you, Praise. In terms of representation of women within the media spaces, we have had issues of people saying even when the women are there, some of them fight their fellow women. But we've also had issues of when the men are there, they wouldn't want to see some of the faces. And in the same way, we've also had issues like, you as women in those political spaces, what are you doing? Even when you're doing something, people now tend to show how you're not doing much as to their expectations. But in the first place, they never even told you to do a thing or two. It is your own goodwill that you decided to front. And so on that background, if you could, again in maybe less than 2 minutes, share with us, especially in terms of to what extent or what is your understanding of how media representation has influenced women in politics, but also the role that the female media professionals should play to ensure that there is actually representation. We already have some women there, they could be struggling. So what role do you think they should play, or what role do you think that generally is a take home for every individual here? Because we shouldn't also look at media as just NTV, NBS and all that. We have Twitter Spaces, we have TikTok at hand, we have all those platforms. What should we use them for?
Thank you so much for that. I'm trying to use 2 minutes. It's like trying to fit a camel through a needle's eye, but let me try my best. So, first, as women, that thing you want to talk about, that thing you want to do, don't expect another woman to do it for you. Do it for yourself. Especially in an age where we no longer just rely on only traditional media, yeah? Traditional media being newspapers, TVs, and radios, right? You have social media accounts, but on your social media account, you've decided to use it, let's say maybe for lifestyle, like post, which is not also wrong. Posting about the places you go to, how you dress that day, how you look that day, amazing, beautiful. But when you find another woman who is using her platform to talk, let's say politics, and today she decides to talk about how Anita's dresses cost this amount of money, but in your village, you know an MP who ate some money that was supposed to be used to construct a specific road. Do not come to that woman's post and say, why don't you talk about these issues? This issue is also happening. So many times we want people to speak for us, yet we can speak for ourselves, yet really, okay, people who make technology or whoever is in charge of it has been so fair to allow for these platforms to exist for men and women. I'm now talking to the men and women in this space. To access, if you have a smartphone, like I said, women, we fight every day, we claim space, we don't have the privilege to sit back, you get? And this will go into the conversation of when people are creating spaces. For example, people are creating media houses, people are creating platforms like Twitter spaces, podcasts. For you, what are you doing? Are you just waiting to be a guest invited to a space? And yet you can create your own space and talk about issues that affect you or affect women at large. We should not fall into that loophole or that cycle of victimizing ourselves. We are more powerful than we think we are. We are capable of so many things than we think we are. So one, if you've started something and you're led to do it a certain way, if you choose, I'm going to do this on media, I'm going to choose media to advocate for ABCD, yes, there is room for correction, but there are people who are not there to correct. They are there to criticize. Today you'll do ABCD, they'll criticize it. The next day you'll do the next thing, they'll criticize it. And as someone who uses my social media as my main point of advocacy, I've faced this quite a lot. Someone will say, the problem is you're too loud, you're too quiet, you're too loud, you speak like this, you use this tone, and then you will use that tone that they're trying to advocate for, and they'll be like, no, now again, go back. You see, it is that insatiable need or desire to always control how women do the things that they do. And it's a patriarchal thing. They want to control how you dress, they want to control how you speak, they want to control how you relate with people. And it's I'm so sorry, Tristan, I'm using more than 2 minutes. But there are these double standards of everything, even shame. She said something about the leaking of nudes. If a man's nudes leaked in a political campaign, trust me, it will be an A+ for them. They'll be describing how they are powerful. Use the Baltazar situation, how there was like this sex scandal he was involved in. Oh yes, that's the man, that's a this, that's a... You let your monogamous relationship nude video leak and you'll see what they'll do. Or you'll see a conversation they'll have about you. So we need, even as we use media spaces, to be shameless and audacious. You get that? Because standards differ. Do not try to change yourself to fit into the confines of what has already been created. Break out of those walls, and that's where impact lies. When you break out of those walls. For example, when I joined this civil society world, activism world, there was like already structures that existed. You find there were certain organizations, money was flowing to those organizations, but when you come on ground, those organizations do not have what? Impact. They are so far-fetched from the people who are on the grassroots doing the actual work that impacts on a day-to-day basis. And those organizations are willing to, for example, I'm not saying our organization that has hosted last year is part of it, but they are willing to sit in rooms and give people very obscene transport refunds. For example, you've attended something like this, and you're going to walk home with 500,000 Ugandan shillings. And yet, there is someone down in the grassroots who wants like 2 million to help girls who don't have pads access what? Pads. 2 million Ugandan shillings. But they can't fund that person, but they can give transport refund to like 100 people, 500K each. So instead of sitting back and saying I'm defeated, or I can't do ABCD, I decided to create my own space that attracted people where these people get money from to be willing to fund your idea or your notion. So that is it. When it comes to media, break the boundaries, create your own spaces. Guys, we are in a creative age. I don't know if, especially women, we are in a creative age. Creativity is being marketed or paid for or earns more than even going to school and studying. That's why a 7-year-old boy can go on their TikTok and do some weird thing, become a meme, him, and all of a sudden they are earning money out of it. You get? So how sensitive are you to those changes economically, politically, socially? Men are very shrewd. I don't know if you guys know what shrewd means. They are cunning, you know? And women, we are ashamed to be shrewd and cunning. But we should be shrewd and we should be cunning. Even the Bible, I read the Bible. Even the Bible talks about how, as Christians, it's so sad that the people of the world are more shrewd than we should be. We have this false humility as women to think that I can't come out and speak on this issue. I can't say this. I'm respectful. So even when it comes to social media, as I conclude, in media spaces, before we tell people to give us space on tables they have created, designed for themselves, let us create tables for ourselves that in the very beginning were meant to accommodate us. Yeah? I conclude.
Thank you so much, Praise, for that, and very well explained. Let me get to you, Samuel. If you could use 2 minutes, please. I know that 2 minutes for praise would stretch a bit. Let's, as a member from the religious fraternity, and also maybe as a representation for the cultural aspirations, what do you think must be done in the religious lens, and the role that you ought to play to ensure that we do have a media representation on board without discrimination, especially that people always have those wonderful sermons as well. So what do you think your role as religious leaders is in terms of elevating this conversation?
Thank you so much. My 2 minutes, I request to use them in a certain way. In that 1 minute, I will give a religious perspective, and then the other one, how I think as a normal human being.
You've already used like 30 seconds.
No problem. So, as another normal human Ugandan, like a normal person, when you look at how the media has affected the rights of different women to deter them from participation into politics, I was reading a certain article by a certain organization called Make Every Woman Count. And in that they had a topic that says how gender-focused information impacts women in Ugandan politics. When you look at how the media affects women, in that the various pictures and videos, when they go viral, they make these ladies lose that self-esteem, even that they're guilty. I happen to be a friend to Honorable Oliver Namazi and Nyanjura Doreen, who has been the deputy mayor. But when she gave birth to the baby, media went viral. They were asking, who is the father of that baby? But I think that is a personal agenda of someone's personal life. So when you look at media, how it affects women, if they do a sexual harassment issue, those are violations that are highlighted. Sexual harassment, technological facilitated violence, then even the physical assaults. There are some ladies who are sometimes beaten and they're stripped naked, but the media platforms and even TV platforms would go ahead and put all that information on media, and the public is watching. And that means that we've lost such important people in the political career. And so, for example, there is a lady 2 years ago, she's called Zaina. She was an activist, but she was stripped naked and humiliated by security personnel. So, and my sister was speaking about a lady called Kamkwanzi Elizabeth. We were following her. I was following her because she was going to aspire as a youth women for Western Region, a youth MP for Western Region. But just imagine her photos went viral, and we've lost such a person for the rest of our life. So now, if we are in this room, what should we do as important as people? The thing I'd love to say is, maybe as I'm winding up, is that as we are here, we belong to different denominations and different religions. But now the issue is, as a pastor and as a religious leader, we need to communicate this information in the churches. Because even pastors, they have televisions, very many televisions, but how often they invite women, people to go on these televisions and communicate the information. There are some times when messages have been preached, maybe on a Sunday, but the same messages are being echoed each and every day until the week ends. But now, if we neglect the rights of these women, but yet it is the same country that we are living in. So I would love to say that we need to do a lot of work to re-empower and retrain and train different stakeholders. Then lastly, which is, like for example, in 2017, there is a lady, she's called Diana Rwigara, who had stood as a presidential aspirant in Rwanda. There are some mafias who made her photos go viral, but she was a presidential aspirant. Now, can you imagine, we've lost such a person. In Uganda, one of the key persons is called Winnie, the wife to Dr. Kizza Besigye. She has 48 viewers on her X space. Can you imagine if such photos of such a person will go viral and we've lost such an important person? Then lastly, when Jesus said that women don't want to join politics because of the associated violence, and they refrain from using online spaces when they realize there is violence online to it. So most ladies refrain from politics because the environment, the atmosphere is not friendly to them. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Let's get to you, Linda. 2 minutes alone, please. Our time is really fast spent. In your conclusion, what needs to be done to ensure equal and effective representation of women in media spaces, both in the rural areas but also in the urban areas?
Thank you so much. Personally, for me, I think we, as the young people, we have to do with a lot of collaboration. Like I've seen there's a lot of, I think there are more than one organization out here in front of us that have brought us together. When you look at this, they're trying to train us and also trying to see what do we see in our societies regarding the media. So with all that we have learned, the positive and the negative, how are we taking it home? Are we going to create our own tables, or we are going to wait for us to be called to the media spaces? So I believe with this kind of organization or the capacity building we are having right now, our mindsets are being changed. We shall go home as changed people so that we can do things for ourselves for the better. And then the other thing is silence. I want to encourage us, the young people, is that silence is always not a good thing. When you see on social media someone is trying to bully a woman or trying to say something against her, don't just keep quiet. Call them out. Say, this is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong. I have seen, like, for the past 3 days, I think there's a lady who was saying something that was not very interesting. And I'm very happy that a lot of people were calling her out. So I think we should also do the same for ourselves. And then when it comes to women, we should focus on our achievements. Don't just be like, for example, me, I am the first chairperson. I don't focus just on being the first chairperson. I want to create change. As being the chairperson, I want to mentor other people. Don't just benefit alone. Try to grow your neighbor, try to grow people in your society, your siblings, your everybody, so that they can get on board. And then also, one thing that I want to encourage the young people is that don't have that mindset of, oh, politics is not my thing. Politics is always going to find you whether you like it or not. And also one thing about leadership is that leadership does not necessarily mean that you should be at the forefront. You can be a leader in all different aspects, but you're trying to make change. You don't have to just be a chairperson or something like with a big position or a member of parliament. I know a lot of people at the grassroots level that are doing amazing things, more than our MPs, more than our district, whatever positions. It's not about the title. It's what are you giving to the people. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Linda, for that. Let me get to you, Stuart, and I'll ask the same, especially that we want to take this on as an advocacy point. What should be done, especially to have more inclusion from the Kenyan perspective, but also Ugandan perspective, because the challenges are almost close to each other. What should be done to ensure that media reporting has a counteractive, especially in terms of dealing with the negative energy that comes along for women in the political spaces?
Thank you so much. I think we may all rotate at the same point of asking the real question: what is the major problem that we need to center at? I may ask for all of us who have attended here, what next after here? After this conversation, what next? At individual level, what will make you different from the person that was not in this role? Do we take that serious? We can reflect on that, and not only today, onwards. For the spaces that we have been in, all the spaces we attend, the capacity building, people invest in capacity building, but I think majorly it usually ends in the rooms after eating, taking tea, and enjoying the AC. So we need to actualize what we learn first. I believe it's not that we are bad off, like Uganda is bad off in terms of the initiatives to enable spaces and visibility of women in politics and the coverage of women. But it's because maybe after getting the knowledge, we are not putting the knowledge in youth. It would be the starting point. I'm not much so into the some social media platform, but sometimes I get my time at night and go on TikTok and scroll around. Do you realize that as the word may be that male, we are the most perpetrators of bullying and online harassment, but if we made a research, the data may show something different. You realize that if you go to the comment, you realize that majority of people bullying someone that has posted their female counterpart. So isn't that a disservice to the women or feminist movement, the fights that we are doing? So if we are doing contrary to the acts that we should be doing to see that we create a just society, then we have a wrong way. So we need to challenge all those stereotypes and also actualize these action points that we need to start off. Even if you start your Twitter space, or even if you post that ideology that push for the just society and the equal access to these opportunities of the media platform, it can start with one post and spark. It's always a spark. You don't know how viral it will go, and it can end up like attaining the cause.
Interesting, thank you so much. I think I believe in the power of starting something. 2021, I started holding Twitter spaces because I didn't have a platform. I did not have the space. I've moderated almost 500 plus conversations, and 2024, 2025, the space grew from the Chesley, from Twitter spaces to a radio space now and to a TV space. So when you're doing something, you must have an idea that that small something that you're doing can actually be the road to the bigger something. You don't have to sit there and say maybe tomorrow I'll be on NBS or tomorrow I'll be there. Sometimes it is the effort that you put in that gets you to where I want to go. And I have also equally been seeing praise on TikTok, talking and talking and talking. All that is what gives you the next bigger and bigger and bigger platform. No one is going to create a platform for you. Like she said, everyone is pushing their agenda. So create your platform, grow it, understand it, and even get to those broader spaces. Honorable Diana, maybe your conclusion in terms of what should be done to ensure that representation is fair to the persons living with disability.
Thank you. As to me, as a person with a disability, what I consider that would be fair for the presentation of persons with disabilities in the media is first to see the abilities and achievements of persons with disabilities than seeing first their disability. And if you see a person with disability, don't focus on the disability, focus on the ability in that person. And another thing, what could be effective representation for people with disabilities in media is accessibility. It could be, I encourage in media offices, media events, and in places of media, if the information is accessible, if there is a provision of captions for our brothers and sisters with visual impairment, sign language interpreters for people with the hearing impairment, and even the places that the physical accessibility on the places, on the offices, on the events of the media, when they are accessible. There are people with disabilities, women with disabilities will effectively participate. Accessibility and the attitude, the community attitude and the media attitude towards people with disability. And another thing, the language that the media places use. The language should be a respective language whereby you don't describe a person with disability by a disability. When you're describing Diana, describe Diana as my name, as Diana, but not describing Diana as a woman with one leg. The language, that one will help people with disability to effectively participate in media spaces.
Interesting, thank you so much. Language is very key. Language of every kind. Chairperson, not chairman. Let's get to my sister. From your last concluding remarks on this, in terms of what you as a youth councillor for persons with disabilities would want these civil societies to do, particularly in your area, in terms of civic engagement with the persons with disability in your community. You're the representative here, and I hope that maybe you have that one thing or two that you think could be an enabler to a more inclusive world for you.
Nze nno kye nakisabye ekyokukola kwe kukkirira eri wansi okusanga abantu abo abaliko obulemu beeyongera okubasomesa.
Thank you very much. She says that her request is that they reach out to those people out there in her community who are living with disabilities.
Beeyongera okubasomesa kuba tulinayo abaasoma ng'asobola okubeera nga avunula nga mu ddwaliro.
So she says they should continue to teach them because they have those who have some kind of training, for example.
Era n'abamawulire okweyongera okumanya n'okusomesebwa nti aliko obulemu naye nga bw'ali. Amawulire ge ganoonye gasake era gaweereze.
She says that the media houses need more training, especially in terms of inclusion of persons living with disabilities, that their information is very key, and they should also look out for them to get information from them, not just getting the information, but they should also share it because it is information of another, or it is information of a fellow human being. And then we can all move together, those with disabilities and every woman. Thank you so much. That's what she said.
Just I don't think there's time really. Maybe if they agree. If you agree to have 1-2 questions, we summarize this because we have another key partner activity that is coming in. It will take like 20 minutes of your time. We are really sorry about time, and we need to wind up with this, I guess. And if there are questions, it should be answered, Tracy, like in 2 or 3 minutes, I beg. Yeah, sure, we agree? Yeah.
Anyone with a question? Chair?
Thank you so much. I'm going to hesitate because Mr. Yusuf is trying to report. Maybe for my case, stable moderator, much as that we are running out of time, but for effectiveness of such programs, sessions have to be very interactive to effect change. So for me, I don't have questions, but I have additives, things to add to the number of things that have been mentioned. So for the first question, I think went to Pastor. My name is Ruth Namteli Elizabeth. I happen to be an architect. I am also very good at CSR work. I advocate for young people in the area of mental health, HIV, because I was also born with HIV. But I'm also a media advocate. In most cases, you find me on TV talking about issues that matter. I'm big on mentorship. I run a mentorship program for young people who are in the sector of construction. I am also a mentor, so I also do career guidance in schools. So this area really concerns me, seeing that I also have the same background as Mr. Yusuf here. You talked about religious politics, and I think what she was trying to say, Mr. Pastor, is politics cuts across in all areas. If you've read about the history of Rome and how the Pope came about to exist, you will quickly find that the major player in politics is church. It's non-negotiable. Politics showcases itself in the following ways in churches. The person who contributes the most towards the construction of the church gets the front seat. Am I lying? And the person who contributes the most in church, in most cases, is the person who is recognized the most in church. And you will find that when that person maybe loses somebody, the entire church will go for the funeral, even when they don't have a personal relationship with them, simply because that person is placed in a position of high regard. They are literally celebrated like a small god. Politics plays a huge part in church. It may be subtle, but if you're smart and intelligent, you'll be easy to pick up on it. In the mosque, the same thing. You've heard the people who contribute towards the construction of mosques, they offer land. Of course, you can't offer land towards the construction of a mosque, and you're not recognized or held in what? High regard. Women, Madam Praise, you talked about women not being considered for panel discussions, called out to be on TV. Abakyala abampuliriza kanzireko mu Uganda, bino ebintu bikomawo ku presence yo. Tosobola kungamba nti no olumirira omuntu wa wansi naye nga tovaayo kwogera. Nze akola ku TV alonda abajja okwogera. N'ategeera ntya nti nno so and so asobola okwogera ku nsonga eruma abakyala nga bwe tovuddeyo ku kindaga. Sijja kukutegeerera, sigenda kukulowooleza. Bwe nga omukyala oba oyagala enkyukakyuka erina kutandika naawe. Tegenda kutandika wa neighbour. Nze ku ssomero buli omu amanyi ekizibu kyonna we kituukawo. Yenze akiikirira abaana nze kamwaka abo. Ku lw'ensonga eyo ne bampa n'akalulu ka president. Kuba bamanyi nsobola okuyimirira wakati w'omusomesa n'omwana nembakola kye nembakiikirira nga seekubidde side baludda. Let us stop complaining that women are considered last. If you have not shown interest, you will not be picked. Bwekityo bwe kiri. Nange bwe mba nnoonya omuntu w'okuwa omulimu ogw'okemploying era nja kulonda omuntu andaze nti ki agusobola. I think that should be common sense. Nimbye? Sirimbye. Interest, atmosphere, presence is everything. Visibility is every single thing. Better on social media, have a Twitter space. I run 2 Twitter spaces. One is about mental health and HIV, the other is about architecture. Naye kati omuntu ayagala okuzimba ennyumba n'amanya ntya wemba sikoze eki simulaze nti nno mbimanyi. Olina okweteekawo n'okola akatiisa ne bategeera nti ono asobola okwogera kweno ensonga. Okitegeera? In all spaces, you find women contributing to the fall of fellow women who are trying to fight for them. The case of the nudes being what? Released. N'osanga omukyala nga mu comment section avuma mukyala munne. Bw'omala ng'ogamba nti n'abakyala tebabalwanirira. naye nga weegasse ku mukyala ali okulwanirira oli musika omuzza wansi. Awo wenkubuuza nga jjajjange bw'atera okumbuuza amabere wayooka gaŋŋamiya. Bannanga bakyala, we have to stand up for each other. I say the bitter truth, nze siriwo okunjagala, nze nja kwogera ekindi ku mutima oba onkyawe okole ki? Onkyawe naye nga nkikubulidde. Abakyala tulekerawo okusika bannaffe. Osanga mu comment section ng'oli avuma munne nga bw'ataanyumye gwe ndaga ky'olinawo. We have to stand by each other. I used not to be a fan of fellow women until I met Dr. Maggie Chikos, and she changed my mind. She told me that you don't have to love her. She doesn't have to love me. The fact that we are in the same gender, ekyo kimala. Sisobola kuyimira onenda banga omusajja ayuza mukazi munnange nange nengattako. Women, tweddeko, we are misusing social media. We are pulling each other down. And as a woman who intends to run for parliament, I am not going to tolerate that kind of nonsense. We have to stand up for each other, ladies. Social media also falls under media platforms. I see the panel conversations have been around TV, radio, but nowadays, mainstream media, that is TV and radio, is strictly competing with social media. And ngenda kudda mu Luganda nnyonyola omukyala akulira nnyo yategere kyengezaako okugamba nti social media also falls under media platforms that contribute towards gender participation. So ojja kusanga nti nno in the newsroom, engeri newsroom gyekolamu we babasaka amawulire bagasaka ne bagatwala mu gundi mu newsroom mubaamu abantu nga benkani namba eno ne bavootinga nti neggulire tetugenda diteekayo lino tugenda diteekayo bavootinga ge mazima. Bwe bamala okuvootinga eggulire lisinga okutunda lye bateekayo omanyi lwaki? Baagala abantu bangi babeere nga bali ku TV balaba eggulire eryo. Temukoma okubeera ku TV nga zonna zituninze sente gye zikoma okuyimbira. So kati eggulire eryo lye baba basaase waliba terigenda kutunda tojja kulirabayo. Si mu bubi. Ekyongezaako kyekunyonyola okitegeere. Newsroom bw'ekola, it is a very competitive space. Decisions are made quickly. Ekyokubiri ky'otamanyi maama. Nze omuntu anyumye nnyo ne bannamawulire abali ku ntikko ddala abo obalabira ddala ku lutimbe. Waliwo ebintu batasobola kubuulira oluzibu na recordinga simanyi katambi ako gye kajja kgenda. Naye oli asobola okusaaka eggulire lwakuba eggulire lirimu person of interest omuntu alinamu eggumba. Ofuna bufunye essimu gy'otamanyi ekugambira eggulire teriteekayo, bw'oliteekayo tukukima. Noweesanga nga munnange oyagala omulimu gwo eggulire n'otaliteekayo kuba lirimu omuntu ow'eggumba gwe balina okushieldinga tomanya ssimu gy'evudde. Ate tojja kubuuza. Kati naawe omugezigezi olondawo ntwale mulimu okole ki? So noweesanga nti nno because media houses have been monetized ziyingiddemu ensonga y'ensimbi. Buli omu anoonya engeri gy'afunamu ensimbi. Ojja kwesanga nti nno bajja kusaka amawulire agasinga okutunda ge bateekayo. Ojja okyegendereza kubukedde tebasoosa na mawulire gatasanyusa. Entiisa. Tokyebuuza lwaki kiriwo ekityo. Basooka aga amawulire agatunda mujje mulabe. Gano agalimu ensonga ge basembyayo. Okiba. Newsroom bwekyo bwekola. There is gender scrutiny. I've served in parliament for 2 terms as a national member of youth parliament. Ebbanga lye namala mu parliament nategeera nti nno abakazi tulina bw'oba ogenze parliament tulina okuba ng'onywedde. Kuba stigma eri abakazi ate ya ntikko nnyo mu lukiiko lwa parliament wekasingira okukola ki? Okuba. Nayimirira okubaako ensonga gy'ennyanjula. Oludda olwali eri ne luntunuulira ne luŋŋamba oyo yazaala nga bakyogera kunsisa wansi nti nno nze engeri gye ndabika ng'eyazaalako kyokka ne sizaalangako. Oli n'ayogera nti eyo yazaala ng'akyogera kussa oba nkiyite nti oluganda lwange lugana essaawa zino to bring me down kunzikakkanya abalonzi bakole ki baleme kumpaka nali ndi mu mpaka za deputy speaker nga njagala kuyitawo mbeere deputy speaker mu youth parliament. I'm sure you know about youth parliament because you serve on what? National Youth Council, right? So ekintu kisingirira ddala. Yes, ekyo ekintu osinga kisangirira ddala mu parliament. You find that gender scrutiny is everywhere, even in our families. So psychology behind releasing women's nudes is because a woman's nakedness, should I say, is what ideally is attached to weakness and immorality, should I say. It's a breaking point, let me say. So subconsciously, women are seen as utmost symbol of morals, meaning that if you bring a woman down,
they will use that as what? Immorality against them. That is why you see people's nudes are being put everywhere. And sometimes they hack into phones. If you watch documentaries, this information is on YouTube, guys. So as a woman, I would advise you that you need to hold your head high. Simply because your nudes have been released, you shouldn't step down. Because the goal is to bring you down, kukakanya, you lose focus, and then you lose self-esteem, and you back out. You have to stand your ground and keep fighting. So society, in brackets, I am saying men. Men hate seeing successful women. They hate seeing women who are confident, who are in places of what? Leadership. As a leader at my university president, I am facing a lot of scrutiny from men, simply because I competed against a man and I beat him at his game. So up to now, I'm seen in the bad light, simply because it's a woman leading us. How can a woman lead men? Women, stand your ground. Please stand your ground. Lastly, as I conclude, women, when you see a fellow woman being pulled down by media and you remain silent, you're contributing. Your silence is a contribution to that woman's downfall. You should not stay silent. I rest my case. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I think also maybe my comment on your submission is that in good faith, sometimes you need to avoid overgeneralizing, especially when you say that all men hate to see successful women, and yet we know that we are here because men organized at the forefront to ensure that this information is really passed on. So maybe we could say some men, or because when you generalize, then it becomes a problem, especially knowing well that we have men here who identify as feminists, men here who are saying let's push this together. You know, it also in a way demoralizes their spirit towards this cause. So maybe they are just a small.
My apologies.
Okay, thank you. And then also another comment I could make before I get the next question would be, and please the next person, just 1 minute, we request for the good of us all. We are hungry. The next comment I had wanted to make is what you do, especially in terms of talking about media, is embracing the challenges and re-emphasizing that they do exist. But you don't give us a solution in terms of, yes, you're saying this is how the newsroom works. Let me tell you one thing, you people. Change never comes in an easy way. Change comes from a point of resistance. When we sit here and say we cannot do much about it, our news will not sell, will never get there, then we are wasting time. There must be a push. There must be a point where we are able to shift these people from their comfort zone, from that angle where they feel this is where we need to be. You get? We need to change that narrative, and that is why we have such conversations, because it is not easy. It is a problem. Yes, it is there. Media houses want money. Yes, it is there. They want hot selling stories. But what happens to the persons with disabilities representation? Where do we strike the balance? When we say that sometimes get out there, what about a woman who cannot see but has something to communicate, but they cannot, if they're not aware that even NTV is a TV station somewhere, what happens to them? How does their information then get on board? But I also appreciate the amazing recommendation that you give in terms of women being at the front line and pushing yourself out there. It is an addition that could fetch you much more than just waiting for things to be done. The progress will be there, but slow progress. Let me get the last question in just 1 minute, and then we'll get for lunch. Anyone that has?
Okay, thank you. Thank you, moderator, for the opportunity. One, I would want to ask Praise in a humble way to highlight based on how Uganda does this policy formulation. It is a kind of an elite mode where the elite decide on what happens to the general population. So in her spaces, I would want to know what strategies maybe she could propose, because I see she's influential and she can speak out on a number of issues. How or what strategies you could propose so that people or young people who don't attain the primary as the maybe the minimum, the global youth participation index, the indicator it is targeting, what strategies do you propose to reach such youths who don't have that primary now? Because you realize that those youths also have ideas. They are leaders. When they grow up, they lead families. They lead a number of spaces. What strategies? The same question will go to Madam Diana, to people with disabilities, looking at the indicator or the parameter of the primary school completion for those youth with disability who don't now complete primary, and they have ideas. What strategies do you propose to bring them on board to such spaces, civic spaces?
Thank you.
Wait, before you go to the next, I have another one to the pastor. Pastor, a church is a social institution which brings people with different ideologies, beliefs. So I wanted you to highlight how you are trying to empower these youth, because I had someone approached you, there is a candidate, you get some 30 youths, they go and do some mobilization or do. How are you? Because these youths who come to the church as a social institution with different ideas, beliefs, they have aspirations for which the church was supposed not only to instill only faith, but to help them pursue their ideas spiritually, using it in such a way. Spiritually, how are you doing that? Because the people who come to the church, they support different political parties, and the church not only has to teach, as a social institution, not only has to teach the word of God, but also appreciate the differences in ideology of these youths. Then another thing, from the research point of view, I have also had to make some challenges. Like I've gotten a chance to publish a paper on youth participation, and while you publish both in print and journal article, while you publish, you realize that most of the consumers of this are people from abroad. Like here in Uganda, while you write in context of Uganda, after writing you put like down an email, and like you get people coming and say, this, I read this, I read. They are abroad and they want feedback. So, and they want you on a number of issues. So you realize that our culture here in Uganda, the adoption, and even when you come here, like, why is it that maybe the organization has tried this government has maybe to support in one way or the other, that you may find maybe the funding is some from the other, somewhere else. So I would also want to know, how do we instill this culture to now with the youth, with the Ugandans, so that we support our own initiatives like these ones?
Thank you for the questions, but I think most of your questions are not specifically on the topic that we're discussing, especially in terms of media. But I will allow them in 1 minute to just give a response, though you did bring out more of an alignment with the topic that we were discussing on media and women.
Hi, Tracy. Kindly. I don't want to invite again people, and what is in their mind is that when Hope for Life invites us,
yes,
can this be a sideline conversation? I kindly ask. Then I also ask that we had an afternoon event that we had planned. We are postponing it. Then, because we still have some activity to do before we leave. Because these are stakeholders, we've been working on a paper, and it will be very bad for them to live without receiving a copy of that paper really. So I kindly ask in good heart that those questions and discussions can't be, let them be a silent conversation while we are eating in the dining hall, right? Is it okay? Yeah. So we have